since the 80s and 90s, when the fossil fuel companies decided that they had to promote this bullshit of, well, there's two sides to this issue, just like the tobacco companies did. I mean, it's the same goddamn thing. Absolutely the same thing. And since then, the approach has softened a little bit because the impact of climate change is now there for all of us to take a look at and go, oh my God, really? And now these filthy goddamn fossil fuel companies are trying to play up their supposedly pro-environmental record. And what they talk about now is, well, we have solar and wind initiatives that will improve energy efficiency and offset, carbon emissions. Yes, it's on the drawing board, on the table. Yeah, we'll get to it maybe by, sometime. Jesus Christ. And really aggressive approaches to tackle climate change, they're now dismissed, not on the basis of the science. Think what Joe Manchin, think what that rotten son of a bitch has been talking about for 2 years. The science, or the reality, I should say, is being rejected by these assholes like Manchin and every single Republican in the Congress on economic grounds, not science. Economic ground. Oh, well, it's going to add to inflation. When you're dead, when you're watching your children not being able to move because the heat is killing them, or they're being swept away in a flood, or they're dying as a result of a tornado, or they're burned alive at a campsite in the forest. When you have to deal with that, do you really give a fuck about inflation? No. So why not deal with it before your children are burned alive? Or you? I'm not talking to you, gentle listener. Dear God, I hope you understand that. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you believed any of the horseshit and the lies and the deception that the Christian terrorists have put out, that the fossil fuel industry puts out, that the tobacco industry, the gun industry, this filthy pig son of a bitch, Donald Trump, and all the little rats that cluster around him. I understand that you are not in that group. But these fossil fuel companies and their PR firms, they talk about lost jobs or high energy prices. Oh my God, gas, and the media goes along with this. How many stories did you see when gasoline was, oh no, $4, $4.50, $5. Oh, look at the West Coast, $7, $8 a gallon. Oh shit. Yeah. When you're trying to fucking breathe and the temperature is 120 degrees Fahrenheit and you can't move, are you going to be concerned about how much gas costs per gallon 10 years ago when this shit could have been addressed? 10 years ago being now. I don't think so. I think you're going to lay there and cook alive. You're going to fucking die. And then you can think about, oh, well, the fossil fuel companies were trying to save our jobs and stop inflation. Yeah. So when these fossil fuel companies talk about lost jobs or higher energy prices, they don't mention the cost of doing nothing to get this under control. And the cost of doing nothing is death. D-E-A-T-H. Death. But this is what the Christian terrorists want. Oh, they love death. Oh, my fucking word. So anything to promote more death, well, hell yes. And the billionaires and zillionaires, oh, well, they don't have to worry about it because they have these rat's nests that they have built with their millions and billions deep underground, with all kinds of tanks of oxygen put back there in the storage unit where we can live for 8 months underground and not have to worry about all the fucking death that's occurring on the planet's surface. And then when everybody's dead, we'll come out and live a happy life once we get rid of 6 billion corpses. You fuckers. There's a guy named Ben Franta. He's an attorney, an author, and a Stanford University researcher who tracks fossil fuel disinformation, because that's what I'm allegedly talking about here. And he said this, quote, "We are living within an extended, multi-decade campaign executed by the fossil fuel industry. The debate over climate change was manufactured by the fossil fuel industry in the 1990s, and we are living with that history right now." End quote. Yeah. And I wonder how many people who were dying or in the process of dying of lung cancer, because in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, oh man, if you're cool, you're going to smoke a cigarette. You know, I watch Turner Classic Movies a lot. And almost every fucking movie made in the 40s and 50s and even into the 60s, every single actor, man, woman, I'm surprised it's not boys and girls, have to be sucking on a fucking cigarette just over and over and over again, using it as a device, I guess, some sort of theatrical device or acting device, when actually what they're doing is telling people, yeah, kill yourself. Commit fucking suicide. Suck on these things. And the carbon industry is doing exactly the same thing. Exactly. We're living within an extended, multi-decade campaign executed by the fossil fuel industry. And the debate over climate change was manufactured by them. And we're living with that history now. End quote. Ben France, Stanford University researcher. And the impact of that history that he's talking about is reflected in public opinion surveys that show this growing gap between the fascist Christian terrorists, Republicans, and normal Americans when it comes to views on climate change. Now, the Christian terrorists can't fucking think independently. They can't do it. Whatever their priest or their reverend or their pastor or their fucking Bible tells them, that's what they're going to believe, no matter what is presented as factual evidence and pushed into their faces. They don't give a shit. Kids swept away and drowned because of flooding. Oh, well, that God wanted to take them home. You crazy bastard, you. Last year, the Gallup organization found that 32% of self-identified Republicans, Christian terrorists, said they accepted the scientific consensus that pollution from humans is driving climate change. 32%. Woo! That's down from 52% 20 years ago. Unbelievable. And if you want to compare the percentage of people who self-identify as Democrats, they say they accept that human activities are leading to climate change. That increased over the same period from 68% of us to 88% of us. So the Christian terrorists went from 52% down to 32% of people who believe the science, while normal people, it went from 68 up to 88% who believe the climate science. Unbelievable. What is it about these Christian psycho fucking crazy people? What is it about you? What are you waiting for? Your own death. The death of your children. But you son of a bitches, in order to fulfill that, you've got to kill everybody else with you, don't you? God. Fossil fuel companies, of course, they deny any intent to mislead the American public. And they try to change the subject, try to redirect our attention because they point to these investments. Oh, what, $100 million? What have I been reading? The major oil companies like ExxonMobil and the rest of these bastards are making billions upon billions upon billions of dollars in excess profits because of so-called inflation. God damn. But the fossil fuel companies are saying, well, we've invested in renewable energy and, we take climate change real seriously. You lying son of a bitches, you know you don't. Darren Woods. He's the CEO of ExxonMobil. And he told members of Congress a couple months ago that ExxonMobil, quote, has long acknowledged the reality and risks of climate change, and we have devoted significant resources to addressing those risks, end quote. Which is bullshit. ExxonMobil was one of the leading companies, or Exxon at the time, who led the disinformation campaign, the lies to get out there and corrupt the discussion so that people would not acknowledge climate change was occurring. And this creep fuck Darren Woods, the ExxonMobil CEO, he acknowledged that ExxonMobil's public claims about climate change, quote, are and have always been truthful, fact-based, and consistent, end quote, with mainstream science. This rat son of a bitch actually said that. Darren Woods, what are you waiting for Jesus to give you your reward, you little prick? You murderous son of a bitch, you. Oh, my God. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.